Good evening, my lovelies. Gonna be playing Bit Pit.
This is the story of one little bit. This little bit wasn't like the others. He couldn't stay in shape, other bits didn't want to be his friend, and his family just didn't want anything to do with him. It was almost as if he'd been cursed from birth. This poor little bit lived most of his life inside his own mind. But while he lacked in so many areas, he excelled in one: willpower. You see, this little bit never, not even for 1 second,
Never give up.
that he was
Bits,
worthless.
never give up,
He
man.
knew he had so much
You
to
can be
offer the
super
world,
bits.
so he pushed himself. He pushed himself harder than anyone you've ever known. He had dreams of being a hero we've all wished we could be. A hero the world could be proud of. He helped anyone who needed it, despite never receiving a single thank you for the things he did. He was getting stronger, but no one could see it. He was going to change the world, but the world didn't want it. He spent his first 30 years invisible, but one day, someone saw him for the first time. She was just one of the many this little bit had helped, but she was different. She actually saw him. They spent so much time together after this. Maybe they even fell in love. But, much like everything in this little bit's life, it wasn't gonna last. It was on a Friday when this little bit's curse reared its ugly head again. And for our little bit and his soulmate, Fridays meant pizza night. This little bit had been walking home from another uneventful day, but it was on this walk that he would face his Gordian knot. He encountered an injured man, a man who probably wouldn't survive unless this little bit intervened. So this little bit did what he always had. He stepped in to try and help him. But what this little bit didn't know, what he couldn't know, that this life he was about to save wasn't worth saving. This man had just murdered his wife after finding out about an affair, his injuries the result of her resistance. Our little bit called for help, and when it showed up, he was arrested. His soulmate ordered a pizza big enough to feed two, but this Friday, it would only be feeding one, as it would every night from this moment on. He was outed as an accomplice to the murderer. The trials weren't in his favor, he had no friends to stand up for him, no family to support him. All he had was his soulmate to vouch for what type of person he was. The murderer didn't care. He probably enjoyed having someone to fall with him. They were both sentenced to death by Bit Pit. The man responsible for the grisly crime and the wrongful punishment of this little bit perished in an instant once he fell in the Bit Pit. However, our little bit did what he had always done best. He never gave up. He survived for as long as he could in there until there was nothing more he could do. The Bit Pit became his resting place, and the conclusion to the life of a faceless hero the world will never know it had.
How deep? How deep and moving?